everyone, I'm Lux and welcome back to my channel. Today, let's talk about numbers in Chinese. As you can probably tell by the title, this video will not dive into the specifics of counting each number. Instead, I'll give you a brief overview of the basics of Chinese numbers and quickly move on to their practical applications. So, if that's what you're looking for, then keep watching. Counting numbers in Chinese is a straightforward process. To start, it's important to know how to count from 0 to 10. When you count numbers greater than 10 but less than 100, they're simply combinations of numbers between 0 and 10. And understanding the format is key. To clarify, let's take two examples. First, let's consider the number 30. The format is 3 plus 10, so it's pronounced as 30. This rule applies to all tens, such as 20, 40, 50, 60, and so on. Next, when pronouncing random numbers like 45, the rule is to use the tens that we previously learned plus the ones that are left. In this case, it would be 40 plus 5 and pronounced as 45. Now let's discuss some units for larger numbers in Chinese, which have a slightly different system than in English. In Chinese, 百 represents hundreds, while 10 represents thousands. For 10,000s, we use the unit 1, and for 100,000s, we use 10万. Millions are represented by 百万, while 10 millions are represented by 千万. Let's take the example of the number 6 and combine it with all these larger units. Then we have 600, 6000, 6万, 60万, 600万, 6000万, and 6亿. When writing numbers in English, we typically use commas to separate every 3 digits, indicating the thousands, millions, billions, and so on. However, in China, numbers are separated every 4 digits, and a comma is used for every 4 zeros. This is because you can probably tell that the concept of 1 is used quite a lot in larger numbers. Now it's time to explore some practical ways of utilizing numbers in Chinese. Starting at the beginner level, numbers can help us answer the following fundamental questions: how many, how much, and how old. Let's take a look at them one by one. The first one is to answer the question how many. Essentially, this question is to ask about quantity. To inquire about quantity, we can use the interrogative pronouns 几 and 多少. 几 is usually used to ask for numbers less than 10, such as in this question. 桌子上有几个苹果? To answer with the quantity, simply use the number and the corresponding measure word for the things being asked, such as 4个 for 4 apples, since the measure word for apple is 个. For numbers larger than 10, we should use the interrogative pronoun 多少, and the measure word following it can be omitted, such as in the question, 你们学校有多少学生? Again, simply use the number plus the measure word for students, which is 名. So you can answer something like this, 大概300名, for approximately 300 students. 多少 can also be used to ask about prices, usually in the sentence form of this. For instance, you could ask, 这个多少钱? 钱 means money in Chinese. The basic unit of Chinese currency is yuan, which is often replaced by kuai in spoken Chinese. To answer this question, you could respond with 50块钱 or simply 50块. Last but not least, let's take a look at the question how old. When talking about age in Chinese, we use the interrogative phrase 多 plus 大. For instance, 你多大了 implies how old are you. The word 了 can be used at the end of the sentence to indicate a change or the occurrence of a new situation, which is common sense for age. That's why le is commonly seen in age expressions. To answer this question, we need to use numbers plus 岁, which is the measure word for age. For example, 我15岁了 means I'm 15 years old. In spoken Chinese, if both parties understand the context asking about age, then the measure word 岁 can be omitted from time to time depending on the speaking habit. Be careful that if you're trying to express 2 years old, we can only say 2岁 instead of 2岁. In Chinese, the number 2 has two distinct pronunciations which are represented by two different characters, 2 and 2. For non-native speakers, when to use which character can be extremely challenging, and making mistakes are very common. This video will not cover that in detail. If you want me to create a separate video discussing this topic, please leave a comment and let me know. Then let's discuss some other real-life applications of numbers in Chinese. When we want to talk about rankings or orders, we use ordinal numbers. To express first, second, third, and so on, we use the character 第 followed by the corresponding number. For instance, 第一, 第二, 第三, 第四, so on and so forth. Moreover, the character 第 is often used before a numerical measure word phrase to indicate order. For example, to express the first book, we can use this formula here and say 第一本书, where 本 is the measure word for 书. Another important real-life application of Chinese numbers is for phone numbers. But phone numbers are read in a different way than general numbers. They are read digit by digit, and the number 1 in a phone number is pronounced as 1 instead of 一. Besides, in Chinese, numbers play a significant role in time expressions, which are essential in real-life situations. These expressions involve specific days, days of the week, and times. To provide you a comprehensive understanding of time expressions in Chinese, I have created a separate video that you can watch after this one. It will be very helpful in enhancing your knowledge of Chinese numbers. Okay, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next one.